where you're from and what you're doing in a day-to-day business.
Thank you. Kai Young, European Motor Car Works. We are out of Southern California, and we actually do quite a bit of EV work in-house.
All right. Thank you for coming.
Dominic Martino. My shop is Gold Coast Auto Body in Chicago, and we also are a EV shop and work on many brands, and we're loving it.
Thank you.
My name's Dave Gruskis. My company is RAE. We're out of New Jersey. We sell the various tooling and testing equipment for the EV market, and mostly to collision centers.
All right. Thank you for coming, gentlemen. So, you said you already have some experience repairing EV cars inside your facility. Where did you get the information from to prepare yourself to develop a safe environment for you and your staff?
Well, we worked with a major manufacturer in the beginning about 12 years ago.
Okay.
And they came in and obviously had training. They had all the procedures that we had to follow. And we had to educate our staff on the dangers of high voltage. And obviously the specialized tools that you needed to purchase and have in-house to complete the repairs properly.
Okay. Thank you. How about you, Dominic?
We had the opportunity to be the Tesla legacy shop in Chicago, and so that was our first introduction to EV, and it was quite an eye-opener. The company did a great job of working alongside with us in repairing the first several vehicles that had structural damage. So we had an opportunity to have the actual people that developed the collision program working side by side with our technicians. So that was invaluable to us to have the opportunity to learn right there with the people that actually developed the procedures. And that went a long way in developing our master tech that was kind of the guru in our shop for quite some time. And he in turn started instructing some of the younger technicians, and now that we're working on Rivians, Lucids, and that progression continues.
Right.
That's one thing I found with the EV manufacturers. They do work very well, side by side with you, and I think it's a great way to learn about the vehicles and how to work on them safely. And at the end of the day, I couldn't ask for a better partnership.
All right, good to hear. Dave.
Well, 12 years or so ago, we got involved with electric car. We actually had the first Tesla in our booth here at SEMA, and it was very interesting because from my side, I'm very concerned with safety. So I immediately was looking at the safety aspect of working on the vehicles. Working with Tesla, we also do the bonding, the riveting, and helping develop the actual repair procedure from the beginning. That has now evolved into many car companies, and because we have our own engineers, it keeps us very busy and on our toes. I am very shocked here at SEMA about the knowledge that is available when you walk around the other halls and you see how far some individual in his garage has brought the level of repairing or refitting an EV. It's amazing what the American worker by himself can develop. This is going to be the biggest learning experience personally in my life. It's like I'm seeing the day of a unibody car just appear, and now it's evolved into where we are sitting here. Right. And by the way, it's wonderful that SCRS has gone through the effort to get us here, to give you what knowledge we have. I'm hoping it goes a long way, and partnering up with iCar is the best. They put the standard together for our industry, so this should be a really great presentation.
Thank you, Dave. So I heard you mention safety, and I also hear you mention different kind of brands of EV manufacturers. I hear you have good experience with retrieving information that is necessary for you and your staff. But what are the main core points of safety and what's difference on a combustion engine versus an electrical vehicle concerning safety inside a collision shop?
I'll take that one.
All right.
So in 2015, we actually opened a EV-only repair facility.
Only.
Only.
Ooh.
And what we found out was with the high voltage, if a car was taken apart, basically it was immobile. So you had to have a facility that you could push these vehicles around on dollies while it's having the different stages of repair work done, and a tag out system where a car can be put with a safety barrier so that people wouldn't walk up to it and obviously get electrocuted. All the necessary tools that go along with that safety effort, the right gloves, obviously all your meters and things like that, had to be focused on. So to answer your question, the difference between an ICE vehicle and an EV was just the actual danger of working around that high voltage. All the technicians would have to be trained, down to the people washing the cars had to understand that you just don't start working on something just because the vehicle's sitting there. So that's what we did to try and get ahead of the game, basically.
So you actually built a shop specifically for electrical vehicles because it's such a different technology approaching the vehicle concerning safety standards.
That's correct. We opened a store right next to the busiest Tesla store in the United States at the time.
Ah.
And so it was convenient for them, it was convenient for us, and there'd be 150 Teslas on the lot at one time. And it was just overwhelming trying to do that. Obviously, the difference between an ICE vehicle and an EV vehicle during the repair process, if you were low on mileage with a EV vehicle, you couldn't deliver that back to the customer. You had to have charging stations available to bump the batteries back up so that they had enough miles to drive home. With an ICE vehicle, obviously you can go to a gas station and put some fuel in it and re-deliver it. So
Yes.
there was a lot of pre-planning because it's a different game set. Things take longer to repair. Specialized tools, battery location where you would have vehicles that needed to have batteries stacked, and the dangers of a vehicle was towed in and the battery may be compromised. You had to be able to put it somewhere 50 feet away from any building in case there was some kind of issue in the battery.
In case of a terminal event.
Exactly.
If we have some issues and we have a concussion inside that high voltage battery, that battery could be good for a couple of days while that vehicle is in your shop. Now all of a sudden we have multiple battery cells and a battery cell is upset, dropping voltage, and the other ones say, hey man, I got some voltage for you, let's push some current to you.
Right.
And now we got current flow inside that high voltage battery, that generates heat again, and all of a sudden that could create a terminal event and light your shop on fire. So it's tremendously important, and I don't know which manufacturer shares this information with you, but we from iCard developed a general class on EV hands-on skills technology that we advise the shop owner to do post-scan, go in with the scanner inside the high voltage battery and watch these cells and watch these temperature sensors that are built inside that high voltage battery and monitor this for future negative events. All right? Thank you for sharing. Dominic.
To expand on what Kai was saying, I think the EV shop of the future is going to be a larger facility because of the space requirements,
Okay.
the isolation requirements, the infrastructure, the electrical capacity that you're going to need. It's kind of going against what we've been doing for the last 20 years, right? And so, yeah, the investment in safety, in infrastructure, tooling, equipment, training. I mean, the amount of training that we do. Younger techs, the iCar program, we had 2 of our younger techs go through the program, and it's been invaluable, and they're eating up the technology. And so I'm developing, one of those techs is actually going to be an EV tech, and he loves it. And so I had the opportunity this morning to be at the student networking event, and when you start explaining, the collision repair industry and what's available to these younger people, their eyes get like this. So, it's not just about tuning engines and and so on. And there's many different roles, and so I'm excited for the future. I really am, and I think that we got some great young people coming into the industry, and it's up to us to really develop that and get them where they need to be for the future.
All right, thank you, Dave.
So as we're talking about this and taking your business into that direction and the safety around it, we're looking at batteries that have started out and now are 300% heavier than they were a few years ago and larger. So now the battery tables that the battery is going to get lowered on, you have to make sure it's safe, it's the proper capacity, the proper bracketing so you don't damage the battery as you talk about cells. And this is also size. So now you have something the size basically of a 4x8 sheet of plywood. And maybe you're going to have 1 or 2 or 3 of these in the shop. Well, you need the square footage because now the batteries are almost taking up a whole stall. You're also required then, like you said about safety. So now you're roping off the area to isolate where the battery is. So now it is a stall. The vehicles, if they do have a thermal event, you're going to need to have these big thermal blankets to blanket the car to contain it till the fire department gets there with a tremendous amount of water. And as we're seeing in Florida right now after the hurricane, the vehicles that are having thermal events, it's 2 weeks later. So as you very eloquently put, where a cell is going to look to the next cell to transfer the energy and cause the heat and cause the event, you have to assume this can just happen in a body shop. We're seeing where a guy simply was throwing a go jack under a wheel and he accidentally punctured a battery. So yes, we're going to get a quick education, and sadly I started when I researched a battery was when the guy on the EV Formula One car got killed in Europe. That's how I learned. That was the first thing, and I learned that prior to even seeing that first Tesla. And I was like, I was fortunate where I learned right away, but we have to stay on top of this. It is a very dangerous business if it's not done properly.
So that's a very unfortunate event that technician, that Formula One technician got killed. But there are laws in Europe, call it ECE R100, that really specifies what is high voltage and what are the laws and the principles on an automobile, right? Those standards are not here in the United States. We have OSHA, right, that is there for your safety and will describe, hey, follow these rules. And they're also concerned with high voltage, but not specifically on an automobile itself. So what we've done at iCar is make our course to these standards. So we train our people on electrical vehicle safety. First of all, basic principles and comprehension of what is electricity, how does these principles work, and how can we simulate them on a safe board for you to make measurements and understand. Then we are talking about safety equipment, and then we have a stimulator model, our EV cart, where we practice zero potential shutdown, safety disconnect, live dead live, and equal potential bonding measurements and insulation error testing. But our goal with these students is, after 5 days, a not monkey see, monkey do activation with them and just saying, okay, these are the steps and go through them, but we mix it up and implement faults and put them on their back foot and really make sure that they have the comprehension of the technology, know what step to be done for safety for them and the environment, and then go through with the activation or deactivation of the vehicle. And I think that is tremendously important, what this industry needs.
The education aspect is critical, and also the relationships, the collaboration between shop owners like Kai and I, and Dave and his team is invaluable. And Dave and his team actually helped develop some of the procedures, and I'll get a call and say, hey, you're certified here, you're going to need this, and to have that trust and that knowledge to be able to pick up the phone and it's invaluable, and I think it's what we're going to need to move this into the future. It's a much more collaborative process between manufacturer, shop owner, equipment, and tooling, and paint, and so on.
Absolutely.
I'd like to tag on to that too. In the past, a lot of these courses that are very intricate were only taken by the ATEX in your shop. But to your point, that high voltage safety and the different things that an EV offers, your staff really needs to be trained completely, at least exposed to the dangers and understand how different it is than working on an ICE vehicle. So there's manufacturers, one of the manufacturers that we're certified for actually has a program where everybody in the shop actually gets an introduction to EV, just so they understand that these are the processes that you need to have in place, SOPs that you follow day in and day out.
To expand on that, we've experienced the same from some of the manufacturers that invite our staff to come in and just watch them and learn, and I think that's invaluable. And for us personally, the proximity of two of these manufacturers really close to the shop makes that really easy to do. So it's a continuous education process that has to occur.
I just want to jump in on when we talk about this safety, everybody says a battery, but there's so many components in the vehicle that are holding that high voltage. So as the iCar class is teaching people the safety of each component to make sure they've checked the potential everywhere, which is so important. When we first talked about this 12 years ago or so, and talked about how dangerous it is for the appraiser going out to touch the car or the towing company, Canada leaped on this, and Canada wanted their insurance people, they wanted to be safe. We're 12 years later, and you talk to an appraiser in the United States, and he's like, what? I mean, this should be standard of some pocket-sized safety device, because we don't want to see where somebody got killed or a serious injury for simply because some guy put a component and put a screw for shortcut some label or something, and that screw went through and hit the high voltage cable.
Yes.
I mean, sadly, this is going to happen. And, here we're 4 people with a group doing all we can to speed up the knowledge. But these cars, there's so many of them on the road. There's so many being produced. And kudos to iCar, but iCar needs all the help they could get their message out. And I sure hope other people here are delivering that message for them, because
I am also very grateful for the generosity from the collision industry, how everybody's sticking their heads together. I hear very positive words coming from you guys that the OE manufacturer is willing to train you, to assist you, to help you. I'm pretty sure that not all shop is in an unfortunate situation like you guys, and I think that is where we have the baseball glove, and we can catch these people and hold them and retain them and educate them as well, and share that information that has overlaps with the OE. And we always instruct people, follow the OE specs, but we've designed a best practice that has an overlap that you can have next to your service information and have a better and straighter guideline, instead of all these hyperlinks where you could get lost as a technician pretty quickly. So sticking our heads together, communicating is the key to success in this technology, and hopefully that we can prevent that nobody goes and screws in an orange cable and all of a sudden gets a zap. Because it's common sense to not have an open flame close to a gas tank. It's common sense not to go grind next to a gas tank or into a gas tank, right? Everybody knows this. But it's not common sense to have some orange cables and all of a sudden get nearby it, not knowing if there's an open source of potential there, of voltage there, that could get you electrocuted, because it's not visual, right? If we have cut cables after a collision and we're going to touch chassis components, that chassis part might be hot, might be having a high voltage plus or a high voltage minus on it. So education and communication is key here.
Absolutely, and well said, first of all, and to expand on what Kai said too, getting the staff involved, our front end staff that are touching these cars when they come in. Again, it's a continuous process, and I understand why these manufacturers want to partner with shops that have experience in vehicle technology, in the certifications, in the training, the commitment to training, the commitment to tooling, because they realize that this is new technology, and it's not something that everybody's going to be able to wrap their head around. And these cars can't necessarily end up just in any shop.
I have a quick question. So, since you're all experienced in repairing EVs, do you test drive the vehicles after you're done with the body work?
Well, obviously, with even an ICE vehicle, a test drive should be given.
Should be.
For wind noise. If there's, and now with all the ADAS vehicles, a four-wheel alignment has to be done. So
Okay.
you should check that. But obviously, if you're going to present a customer a vehicle back that's been involved in an accident, you want to make sure that you give something back that is safe and had been tested. But to answer your question, a lot of the EVs have in their calibration or post-calibration process, some type of test drive that should be done.
All right.
So that's a great question,
But that's another time thing on the invoice as well. Is there an industry standard that you apply in your shop? Is it a 20-minute test drive? Is it a 40-minute test drive? Is it just a circle around the block?
I wish it was that simple, because every OE has a different process
Okay.
of what they consider a post-calibration. It could be dynamic, it could be static, but overall, just in repairing vehicles, we do a test drive just to make sure there's no noises, there's no issues.
No Christmas tree going off on the dash?
Totally. But surprisingly, like with us, if we take in a vehicle that is drivable, that's in, let's say, for instance, just a minor repair, we test drive that before we even start the vehicle.
Okay.
Just to see if it has other issues. Maybe a wheel out of balance, maybe it's pulling one way or the other, so we can document that. So we're not chasing something that was pre-existing.
I don't have much to add to what Kai said, other than, yes, you have to test drive the vehicles. To Kai's, what he just said about test driving it before you start working on it, because some guests will bring their vehicle in and say, hey, it's making this noise, and all right, let's go check. Well, let's check it out. We'll take a drive, and then we know how to. We know that we need to focus on that. But yeah, it's part of it, whether it's an ICE vehicle or EV.
This is actually kind of funny, because this was one of the instances I ran into. First, from the shop standpoint, because some of the vehicles, resetting them require going on a flat road for such great distances at such certain speeds that these guys are not getting paid for. It's a major problem with the insurance industry. I mean, if it's required to be safe to do steps 1, 2, 3, and say I'm only going to pay for 1 and 2, it's a little bit bizarre. The second thing is, I was at a shop with an electric vehicle that went on a test ride. It was an extensive repair, and it did make a ticking sound. And when the car came back and they searched the seam sealer, they saw a spot where there was a little opening on the bottom of a post. And I happened to be there when the guy was going to drill a hole and put a pop rivet where that is. And that's when I went a little bit crazy, asking him, what the heck is behind where you're drilling this hole? Yes. What's this drill bit going to hit, putting this pop rivet in? And he said, well, what's my choice? I said, your choice is to dismantle. The car was fixed wrong to begin with. Mm-hmm. And I said, he's like, what's your advice? I says, buy the car. I said, you didn't know what you were doing. You did it wrong. Be prepared to buy a car. So these shops also have to be ready to say no to the repair and send it somewhere else, or be able to write a check for the car.
Going back to that question about test drive, an EV has no engine noise. Basically the road noise is all you hear. Yeah. So the test drive vehicle, after you repair it, you have to be so acute that it's not making any other noises that are abnormal. Yeah. Because unless the stereo's turned way up, you're going to hear every little squeak and whistle and whatever. So that's why it's imperative also to do that test drive.
Wheel bearings, squeaking brakes.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you hear your windscreen wipers say,
Right.
and they come back and they said, it was not doing that before the repair.
That's right.
And again, to what Dave said about the vehicles really do need to go to the properly trained facilities.
Yes.
That are showing a commitment to safety and proper repairs and following the protocol.
Yes. So, Dirk Fuchs, we've been presenting the company and our trainings over all these conventions. And when we start with our presentation, I always start about the potential hazards and the danger, electrocution and thermal events, right? But then I also explain what steps need to be done to create a safe environment for yourself and for your shop. But what I see once I start doing these presentations and when you get electrocuted and your blood starts boiling and your eyeballs start popping out of your head and stuff like that, that's some serious stuff, right? Or a shop gets burned down. You see a lot of fear. And what we try to do is try to bring knowledge and replace that fear with knowledge that brings them and the shop into a safe environment and a good business model. Because if it's a different business model. I hear space, right? Bigger shop, more space, investing in tooling, investing into your workforce. So it's an investment from your side, but I'm absolutely sure that investment will return into profit and benefit for a collision shop that has a professional mindset and is set into the future, and the future is now.
Well said.
Standard operating procedures, and everybody has to be trained on that, because it doesn't matter who it is. You're going to touch the car.
Yes.
So it's imperative.
All right. Anything to add, gentlemen?
There's the knowledge here at the show for safety. There's the knowledge here for the show at doing things right. And you have iCar here to answer any questions, let you know what courses are available. You shouldn't be taking these iCar courses when it's the last minute and you have to maintain a certification. This is your food for your business. You should be doing it before you open the door. Don't put the cart before the horse. Do it the right way or don't do it at all.
Yeah, and I really want to thank iCar for being so proactive in future technologies and offering a program where people can send their staff, owners, techs, people that work in the back. I mean, it's just an awesome opportunity to be able to have that access.
Well, we're by the industry, for the industry, so you hit the nail on the head there. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. We're going to check out Kai, Dave, Dominic. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed this conversation and having you here. And have a good show. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very
Nick.
much.